am the true heiress of the Prime Minister's household. Yet the impostor took my place in the Emperor's bedchamber and became the tyrant's favorite concubine. But the tyrant not only died childless but also passed away prematurely. And childless concubines were required to commit suicide in his honor. I, however, was blessed with fertility. After marrying the frail Prince of Wu, I gave birth to a healthy, chubby son. When the Prince of Wu ascended the throne, I became Empress. Little did I know that when I opened my eyes again, the fake heiress had beaten me to it and married the Prince of Wu. While I entered the palace to become the tyrant's concubine, the tyrant's expression was cold and indifferent. He had no intention of favoring me. I silently complained to myself, even though the emperor is useless, I need to conceive a child as soon as possible. The cold-hearted tyrant suddenly looked up and glanced at me. Main text. I knelt outside the emperor's bedchamber, standing in line with a group of concubines, waiting to be summoned by the tyrant. Su Jiaoyi, the daughter of Minister Su of the Ministry of Revenue, had just been carried inside, but less than half an incense stick's time later, she was carried out. Her face streaked with tears. No one dared to speculate on what offense Su Jiaoyi had committed against the emperor, for the tyrant was capricious. The slightest displeasure could cost someone their life. Song Jieyu, the daughter of the Minister of War standing ahead of me in line, fainted from sheer terror and was swiftly dragged away by eunuchs. Outside the hall, one could hear a pin drop. No one dared breathe a word. I couldn't help but curse inwardly. He really is a tyrant. Even his method of favoring concubines is so perverse. No wonder he's short-lived. The doors to the bedchamber suddenly swung open, and a figure clad in bright yellow strode out, scanning the room. Who was speaking just now? The palace maids and eunuchs all fell to their knees in terror. The chief eunuch plucked up his courage and replied, "Your Majesty." No one spoke just now. I silently muttered to myself, that dog of an emperor is still young, yet his hearing's already failing him. It's clearly dead silent in here. Isn't it? The tyrant strode down the steps, his towering figure standing before me against the light. I stared at his slender, pale feet, too afraid to look up, until a gaunt hand gripped my chin, forcing me to raise my gaze. It was the first time I'd ever observed the tyrant Xiao Mingji's features from such close range. Beneath his fierce, intimidating aura lay a face as radiant as spring blossoms and eyes as brilliant as the stars. Good heavens! This tyrant is far more handsome than that King of Wu. Everyone says the King of Wu is peerlessly handsome, but clearly the tyrant is the true #1 heartthrob. Xiao Mingji stared at my tightly closed mouth without speaking, then suddenly smiled. Whose daughter are you? Though I had no idea what had caught the tyrant's eye, I answered obediently. This servant is Gu Zhao, daughter of the Chancellor. Xiao Mingji pondered for a moment before saying, "Come with me inside. You will stay and share my bed tonight." Watching the tyrant's retreating figure, I couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. I'd heard that in my past life, the fake heiress Gu Wanning had to sing and dance to win the tyrant's favor, but in this life, I haven't even had a chance to put on a show yet. Or perhaps the tyrant's true target was always the daughter of my worthless father, Chancellor Gu, attended by palace maids. I soaked in a rose-scented bath in a side chamber of the emperor's bedchamber, thinking of the night ahead. A faint sense of anticipation began to rise within me. The short-lived tyrant has a handsome face. I wonder what his figure is like. If he's got a good build too, then I won't be at a loss. A sound came from the doorway. Xiao Mingji, clad in moonwhite nightwear embroidered with dark dragon patterns, was staring at me intently. In a panic, I grabbed the bathrobe beside me, barely covering my exposed skin, then bowed respectfully. Long live the emperor. But inside, I was screaming, the nightgown tyrant. I have to admit, white suits him way better than yellow. I'll strip him down later and see what's underneath. Xiao Mingji cleared his throat, nonchalantly walked past me, and sat down on the small bench by the window to read. I washed myself clean, changed into a cool nightgown, and followed him step for step, speaking ingratiatingly. Your Majesty, A moment of spring night is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Let this concubine attend to you so you may rest. Xiao Mingji didn't even lift his eyes. You go to sleep first. The tyrant really is no good in that department. Otherwise, how could he possibly remain unmoved with a fragrant beauty like me right in front of him? Should I suggest asking the Imperial Medical Bureau to send over a pot of aphrodisiac wine? But would that hurt his pride? Xiao Mingji looked up and gave me a deep stare, as if he wanted to say something but held back. Since you're not sleepy, then swat the mosquitoes for me. I widened my eyes. Isn't there incense in the palace? Xiao Mingji gave a cold laugh. I don't like the smell of incense. You smell much sweeter when you're moving. That dog of an emperor is just tormenting me on purpose. 2. Xiao Mingji read all night, and I spent the whole night swatting mosquitoes. When dawn broke, I saw the tyrant off to court, my face marked by 2 dark circles under my eyes. Xiao Mingji actually seemed to be in a good mood. Damn it! Can I really be blamed for being too eager last night? After all, concubines who haven't produced an heir within 3 years are all required to commit suicide alongside the emperor. I was originally the legitimate daughter of the chancellor's household who had been living in exile for over a decade. But by the time I returned, the impostor had already become the apple of my parents' eyes. I became a thorn in the side of everyone in the chancellor's household. Gu Wanning had the very best of everything, while I struggled to survive in the chancellor's mansion like a servant, forced to endure her bullying. In my previous life, after the imperial decree to enter the palace arrived, everyone tacitly agreed I was unfit for public life. They hastily married me off to Prince Wu. Xiao Mingchenwo was reputedly frail and sickly in a ritual to ward off misfortune, while Gu Wanning took my place as the legitimate heiress and entered the palace as a noble imperial consort. Had it not been for the imperial family's struggle to produce heirs with the tyrant dying childless and prematurely, and had I not given birth to the royal line's sole heir, that sickly Prince of Wu would never have ascended the throne. Alas, the Prince of Wu was no suitable match either. He crowned me empress merely to squeeze every last drop of my reproductive value, only to send me to my death with a cup of poison. In this life, Gu Wanning beat me to marrying the Prince of Widows. She thinks she can become empress and rule the empire through him. That's nothing but a pipe dream. As long as I give birth to Xiao Mingji's royal heir soon, once he dies, I'll be the Empress Dowager. The Prince of Wu won't get another chance to ascend the throne. According to imperial protocol, the daughter of a high-ranking official who enters the palace as a concubine may return home to visit her family after her first night with the emperor. Although I really did spend the entire night swatting mosquitoes, to outsiders it looked as though the Gu family's daughter had been showered with favor the moment she entered the palace. The emperor had kept me alone in his bedchamber swatting mosquitoes for 7 consecutive days. So I, too, could return to the chancellor's mansion to visit my family. I specifically had someone find out the date Gu Wanning was returning to her family home and deliberately chose the same day. What I didn't expect was that Xiao Mingji would, unusually, insist on coming with me. The Gu family has raised a daughter like you. Naturally, I must go and see what secrets lie behind it. I couldn't make head or tail of what the tyrant was saying, but seeing the Gu family members kneeling all over the floor put me in a splendid mood. It seems marrying a tyrant does have its perks. Now, all of you who look down on me have no choice but to submit obediently at my feet. For some reason, Xiao Mingji was taking his time before calling for them to rise. Since he didn't call for them to rise, I was happy to let things play out and didn't remind him. Gu Wanning, kneeling among the crowd, suddenly rolled her eyes and fainted. I couldn't help but complain inwardly. Faking faint again. Gu Wanning always uses this trick to make my own parents hate me. I wonder if the tyrant will come to hate me because of this too. Oh well, maybe I should plead for mercy. Your Majesty, perhaps. Xiao Mingji cut me off and ordered. Everyone else may rise. Since the princess consort of Wu is of delicate health, let her bask in the sun a little longer. She may enter the hall whenever she wakes. I couldn't help but cheer inwardly. And you call this a tyrant? There's no ruler more wise than him, right? Xiao Mingji's lips curved into a faint smile. Only then did Gu Wanning slowly come to. When she looked at me, her face was filled with jealousy and resentment. This humble subject has behaved improperly, seeing my elder sister so high and mighty, yet showing not a shred of the affection she once showed in the mansion. I was overcome with sorrow. Father, the Chancellor, naturally dared not cross the tyrant, so he turned his wrath upon me. Now that you've risen to power, you're quite the high and mighty figure, with not a shred of sisterly affection left. What kind of woman is this who doesn't deserve to be part of the imperial family? You worthless father. You abandoned me at birth and have your heart set on the streets. Back in the mansion, you never treated me like family either. And now you dare to slander me in front of the tyrant. He glanced at Xiao Minji, who replied thoughtfully, the Chancellor speaks with reason. If the princess consort of Wu shows no respect for her elder sister, how could she be worthy of the Prince of Wu? She is to be punished by copying the Women's Code of Conduct 800 times. She is not to leave the palace until she has finished. Everyone looked at the tyrant in astonishment. Gu Wanning's eyes turned red with rage. But she could only accept the decree and express her gratitude. Before leaving, Gu Wanning whispered in my ear, Empress Consort Zhao, you may be in high favor now, but I know the Emperor hasn't even touched you. Has he? He may seem to favor you greatly, but in truth, it's all out of fear of my father. I'm different. Though the Prince of Wu is useless for now, his good fortune lies ahead. I watched Gu Wanning's self-important, foolish expression with a cold gaze. It seemed my suspicions were correct after all. She, too, had been reborn. I couldn't help but feel a bit anxious about my own situation. Even if the sickly Prince of Wu had no children of his own in this life, once the tyrant died, wouldn't I still have to be buried alive with him for lacking an heir? On the carriage ride back to the palace, I called for a stop as we passed a pharmacy and made a quick detour. When I returned, I held a small porcelain vial in my hand, the most potent aphrodisiac available. They say even the most impotent man can last a while with it. Tonight, I'll do whatever it takes to bring the tyrant down. Xiao Minji's hand paused mid-page as he flipped through a book. Otherwise, when the Prince of Wu ascends the throne in 3 years, the poor tyrant will die a miserable death without even a child to his name. Xiao Minji's face suddenly turned deathly pale. 3. Xiao Minji took in everyone's reactions one by one before speaking slowly. Your Majesty, are you feeling unwell? Oh no. Oh no, is the tyrant about to collapse? I haven't even had a chance to bear a child yet. Xiao Minji gritted his teeth, snatched the small porcelain bottle from my hand, and hurled it out the carriage window. Tonight, I will show you exactly what I am capable of. That night, there were no mosquitoes to swat, nor did any other concubines line up. After calling for water 3 times throughout the night, my voice had grown so faint it was barely louder than a mosquito's buzz. It seems the tyrant isn't impotent after all. But why didn't he favor his concubines? And why did he have no heir during his reign? Early the next morning, the tyrant went to court, and the Empress Dowager summoned me to the Xinaying Palace. As soon as I reached the doorway, I heard the hearty laughter of Gu Wanning and the Prince of Wu inside. It brings this old woman such joy when you two visit the palace. The Prince of Wu is the most thoughtful of all. He feels more like my own son than the Emperor does. The moment I entered, the laughter and merriment inside came to an abrupt halt. The Empress Dowager sat in her seat of honor, shot me a sidelong glance, then had a bowl of fertility-suppressing soup brought in. The Emperor is busy with state affairs. As a concubine, you must not use your charms to bring misfortune upon the sovereign or distract the Emperor. I hear you kept the Emperor occupied all night last night. This is outrageous. Drink this soup at once. The Emperor is not yet ready to have an heir. I was utterly stunned. In my previous life, I rarely entered the palace, and whenever I saw the Empress Dowager, I simply thought of her as a dignified old lady. I never imagined it was she who refused to let the tyrant have children. Gu Wanning rose and brought the bowl of medicine to me. Sister, the Empress Dowager means well. Just drink it. After all, In her heart, the Prince of Wu's child is her true grandchild. She just gave me a whole bunch of medicine to regulate my body so I can conceive sooner. I stared coldly at Gu Waning's hand holding the bowl, and she glared back at me just as defiantly. In this life, the young prince must be mine. Just drink this fertility-blocking potion obediently. Perhaps after the emperor passes away, I might even plead for mercy and let you die painlessly. I let out a cold laugh, raised my hand, and knocked the bowl over. The scalding liquid splashed all over Gu Waning. The Empress Dowager slammed her fist on the table in fury. How dare you? Wan Ning was kindly bringing you the medicine, and you dare to hurt her. It seems you'd rather face punishment than accept mercy. Guards, beat her stomach. Beat her until she bleeds. Several burly matrons stepped forward to restrain me. Suddenly, a eunuch announced, "The emperor has arrived." Although I usually called him a tyrant, at a moment like this, I still saw him as my last hope. But the Empress Dowager had someone gag me and spoke first. "Your Majesty, this concubine has shown me disrespect and even insulted me. She must be severely punished to set an example for the harem." That old witch is playing the victim. It's clearly you who wants to abort the tyrant's child. I just don't get it. They're both the Empress Dowager's sons. So why is she so biased toward the Prince of Wu, yet treats the tyrant as if he weren't her own flesh and blood? It seems the tyrant's erratic moods stem from his mother's neglect. Poor thing, after he died suddenly in his previous life, the Empress Dowager didn't shed a single tear. She happily installed the Prince of Wu as the new emperor. I'm actually starting to feel a bit of sympathy for the tyrant. As she watched Xiao Minji's face grow darker and darker, the Empress Dowager couldn't suppress a smile. "Your Majesty, why not send this concubine to the Department of Punishments to serve as a lowly slave? It would set a good example for the other consorts." Xiao Minji let out a cold laugh. "Mother, you truly are considerate of your son." Seeing that the tyrant seemed to agree with the Empress Dowager, the Prince of Wu, standing nearby, suggested, "My royal brother has always been dutiful. A woman who shows such disrespect to the Empress Dowager deserves to be dragged off to be made into a human pig, and then will we be satisfied." Gu Waning clapped her hands in delight, grinning from ear to ear. 4. I'm afraid we cannot touch Consort Zhao. She already bears my child. Not only were those present stunned, but I was stunned as well. But last night was our first time. How could she have conceived so quickly? Xiao Minji glanced at me without giving anything away. I couldn't tell if it was my imagination, but I felt that look carried a hint of contempt. The Empress Dowager's face darkened. "Didn't you two consummate your marriage last night? Is the emperor willing to deceive this old woman just to favor that harlot?" Xiao Minji shook his head. "Zhao Zhao and I have long been deeply in love. We consummated our union the very day she first entered the palace. The tyrant really is quite the actor when he is no worse than the concubines in the harem. But he lied to save me, so in that light, he's actually quite a decent person." Xiao Minji glared at the matron holding me, and she was so frightened she let go of me. I pulled the cloth gag from my mouth and threw myself into Xiao Minji's arms. "Your Majesty." Sniffle, sniffle. To be honest, the tyrant looked quite charming just now. I'm already reluctant to let him die a violent death in 3 years. Xiao Minji smiled faintly at first, then his expression darkened again. He turned to face the Prince of Wu. "The Prince of Wu has been quite idle lately. From now on, do not bring the Princess of Wu before the Empress Dowager to gossip." The frail Prince of Wu, facing the domineering Xiao Minji, naturally felt a sense of inferiority. He stammered, unable to reply, while the Empress Dowager, standing nearby, flew into a rage. "What sort of words are these? Your Majesty, I take a liking to Chinner and his wife. What is wrong with summoning them to the palace to keep me company?" Xiao Minji sneered. "Next time, mother, do not trouble Zhao Zhao. You may converse with the Prince of Wu and his wife for as long as you like. Zhao Zhao has rendered meritorious service by bearing an imperial heir. I have decided to promote her to the rank of noble consort Zhao Zhao." and henceforth she is exempt from all court audiences. Gu Wanning, standing behind the Prince of Wu, spoke as if by chance. Sister, this pregnancy came rather suddenly. Have you had the imperial physician examine you? Don't tell me there's been a mistake. The Empress Dowager looked as if she'd just been reminded of something. The gaze she cast upon my belly held a hint of malice. Indeed. Summon the imperial physician. I shall verify whether this consort Zhao's womb truly bears a royal heir. Xiao Mingji shielded me behind him. Only Master Sun, the divine physician, is qualified to examine consort Zhao's condition. If anyone else were to examine her and something went wrong, could they bear the responsibility? The Empress Dowager was so enraged by Xiao Mingji's twisted logic that she was momentarily speechless. After all, no one in the palace would dare pull the emperor aside to examine the consort's belly, would they? That old witch is about to die of rage. Serves her right. Who told her to favor her youngest son and treat her eldest like a weed? I never thought the tyrant and I would share such a similar fate, both with families that show favoritism. Seeing the emperor defend me so fiercely, Gu Wanning's expression grew even more grim. As Xiao Mingji pulled me away, he glanced back at Gu Wanning. I hear the Princess of Wu is merely an adopted daughter of the Chancellor's household. An adopted daughter must know her place. For repeatedly stirring up trouble against her elder sister, she shall receive 20 slaps across the face. In a moment, I shall order the imperial household to change your identity token back to adopted daughter and proclaim it to the realm. Gu Wanning collapsed to the ground, and the Prince of Wu's expression was equally grim. Among the imperial clan, status and lineage are held in the highest regard. Gu Wanning had always presented herself as the daughter of the Chancellor's household, but in reality, she was merely the illegitimate daughter of a lowly servant. Changing her identity token would bring shame upon the entire Prince of Wu's household. Back in the Emperor's bedchamber, I couldn't help but feel a little anxious. I could only admit honestly, Your Majesty, I truly am not carrying a child. Xiao Mingji personally drew back the bed curtains, and the look in his eyes as he turned to me was strange. That is precisely why we must make the most of our time. Before I had a chance to fully process the meaning behind Xiao Mingji's words, the world spun around me as he swept me onto the imperial bed. It seems I'll have to buy some impotence medicine for this tyrant. How am I supposed to endure this if it keeps up? Xiao Mingji's face darkened, and what followed was an even more violent storm. Everyone in the harem knew I was pregnant. All my food and drink had to be inspected for poison by the Imperial Medical Bureau before I could eat or drink it. But that day, after taking the pregnancy-preserving medicine sent by the Imperial Medical Bureau, I was suddenly struck by unrelenting abdominal pain. The Empress Dowager, accompanied by Gu Wanning, burst into my bedchamber just in time. How dare you, noble consort Zhao, feign pregnancy to disrupt the affairs of state? I have decided to select a crown prince from among the imperial clan to stabilize the court. Startled, I couldn't help but ask. The emperor is in the prime of his life. Even if I am not with child, he will eventually have his own biological son. Why must we choose from the imperial clan? The Empress Dowager sneered coldly. I know better than you whether the emperor can father children. Guards, arrest noble consort Zhao. Could it be that the Empress Dowager has given the tyrant a potion to render him childless? Is that why he has never been able to have a child of his own? 5. Stop. Mother, I have told you. Consort Zhao is with child and must not be disturbed. Xiao Mingji arrived just in time once again. The Empress Dowager sneered. Even if she were truly pregnant, she'd have miscarried after accidentally drinking the abortion potion. Emperor, for the sake of the empire's stability, I have already selected an heir for you. We shall choose a date to proclaim him crown prince, so as to reassure the people. The Prince of Wu walked in holding a 2-year-old child, followed by a group of ministers waiting outside the hall. Your Majesty, this is the grandson of the Prince of Ruyang, chosen by Her Majesty. His parents died young, making him the perfect candidate to be adopted into your line. What a venomous scheme these mother and son have, taking someone else's infant to be emperor. Won't the empire still end up in their hands in the future? It seems that even if I were to give birth to a royal heir, I'd face the same fate. Perhaps this tyrant shouldn't die after all. Xiao Mingji smiled with apparent relief. Suddenly, another thought struck me. Even if I must die, I'll wait until my royal son is old enough to rule on his own. Then I'll simply become Empress Dowager. Xiao Mingji's expression quickly darkened. Very well, Mother. Prince Wu, are you so certain that the imperial heir and consort Zhao's womb is no longer there? Attendants, summon Master Sun to the palace to take consort Zhao's pulse. Dr. Sun arrived quickly. After taking my pulse, his expression remained calm. Your Majesty, the noble consort's pregnancy is stable. The Empress Dowager and Gu Wanning exchanged glances, both seeing shock in each other's eyes. Impossible. Dr. Sun, dare you be lying? I couldn't help but mutter to myself. Thanks to the tireless efforts of the tyrant and me, I who am naturally blessed with fertility have long since conceived. Okay. The incident where I accidentally drank the abortion potion was a trap deliberately set by the tyrant and me. If I hadn't pretended to have ingested poison, how would the person who secretly poisoned me have been exposed? And now, all those with treasonous intentions have also been brought to light. The Empress Dowager muttered to herself. How could you possibly have an heir when you were a child? I clearly... She stopped mid-sentence. I sighed inwardly. Ah. It seems the Empress Dowager has been drugging the tyrant since he was a child. Thankfully, I have a naturally fertile constitution. Even with the weakest young energy, I can still bear children. The Empress Dowager raged that Master Sun, the divine physician, was fabricating the results and refused to believe it. Xiao Mingji sneered. Guards, bring in the Grand Princess to verify the identity of Consort Zhao. The Grand Princess was Xiao Mingji's great-aunt and the late Emperor's aunt. She had never married, cherished the imperial family's young members, and held great prestige among the royal kin. The Grand Princess entered, cast a casual glance at the Empress Dowager, then extended her hand to me. My dear child, you've been through so much. Come with me to the inner chambers. With the Grand Princess's testimony, none of the court officials dared to question it further. As she was leaving, the Grand Princess shot the Empress Dowager a glare. This imperial house belongs to our Xiao clan, not your Wang clan. The Empress Dowager's face paled, and she dared say no more. Xiao Mingji gazed tenderly at my belly, as if looking at a priceless treasure. I hereby declare that upon the birth of Consort Zhao's child, he shall be named Crown Prince, and Consort Zhao shall be crowned Empress. The grandson of the Prince of Riyang's family shall be returned to them. As for the Prince of Wu, if he wishes to become the retired emperor, why didn't he sire a child himself? Is his consort not capable? As for the officials who followed the Prince of Wu in his reckless behavior today, who pays your salaries? All those involved in today's affair shall have their official robes stripped and be imprisoned in the celestial prison to await trial. As for the Prince of Wu and his wife, for stirring up trouble and misleading the Empress Dowager, each shall receive 20 lashes and be confined to the Prince of Wu's mansion to reflect on their misdeeds. The Prince of Wu looked at Gu Wanning, a flash of resentment crossing his eyes. The secret guards Xiao Mingji had sent to the Prince of Wu's mansion reported that after returning home, the prince had summoned several concubines and ordered the princess consort to kneel at the door. Yet none of them had conceived. Xiao Mingji smiled, and when he turned to look at me, his gaze grew even gentler. Zhao Zhao, I am fortunate to have you. That day, before attending the morning court session, Xiao Mingji saw me sleeping soundly and ordered the palace attendants not to wake me. I rolled over comfortably and embraced something soft and warm. Opening my eyes, I found it was the Prince of Wu. Seeing that I had woken, he quickly covered my mouth. Don't scream. If you do, your reputation will be ruined. 6. I stared coldly at this husband from my past life, who was now gazing at me with greed, feeling not a single ripple of emotion. The Prince of Wu had a timid nature. He always hid behind the Empress Dowager and Gu Wanning, so he didn't have the guts to hurt me now. We're both daughters of the Gu family. Why can you conceive my elder brother's child? Yet Wanning cannot conceive mine. It must be because Gu Wanning's bloodline is too lowly. Zhao Zhao. You should have married me and born me a son. Then we could rise through our son's status. I'd be emperor, and you'd be empress. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I was stunned by the King of Wu's twisted logic. Could it be that if Gu Wanning had married a normal man, she could have conceived, and the real problem lies with you, King of Wu? I gave a cold laugh. Of course not. Once I bear the emperor's child, I'll become empress. Why would I want to be your empress? The Prince of Wu smiled eerily. I'll let you in on a secret. The Empress Dowager has been poisoning the concubines. My older brother won't live much longer. Once he's dead. Do you really intend to spend the rest of your life raising his posthumous child? I know you don't like Wanning. If you agree to betray my brother and be with me, I'll kill that slut. I only want you. I rolled my eyes. A toad should look in the mirror and see himself. I must be blind to have ever set my eyes on you. As we spoke, the Prince of Wu lunged at me, intending to commit an indecent act. As I struggled fiercely, my nightgown began to come undone, when Xiao Mingji pushed open the door. This was the scene he witnessed. The Prince of Wu was subdued, while I lay on the bed, my clothes disheveled. Upon seeing Xiao Mingji, the Prince of Wu did not grow angry but laughed instead. Your Royal Highness, Zhao Zhao is my woman, and she carries my child. So what if you're the emperor? You're still wearing a green hat. Zhao Zhao only submitted to you for my sake. It's over. I'm done for. That consumptive wretch, the King of Wu, dared to lay a hand on me. Surely Xiao Mingji can tell I'm innocent, right? As I watched Xiao Mingji's face grow darker and darker, my heart sank to the depths. How hard could it be to tell? The King of Wu is so ugly. Why would I turn my back on a swan to go gnawing on a toad? Xiao Mingji suddenly burst out laughing. Guards, take her away. I grabbed Xiao Mingji's arm. Your Majesty, please hear me out. You are the only one in my heart. It's over. It's over. Xiao Mingji, surely you can't be so blind as to miss such an obvious ploy to drive us apart. Xiao Mingji looked at me clutching his arm and smiled faintly. What are you all standing there for? Prince Wu Xiao Mingchen has trespassed into the imperial harem, attempted to harm the imperial heir, and sought to usurp the title of prince. He is hereby demoted to commoner status, confined to his princely residence, and forbidden to leave without summons. Prince Wu's eyes were filled with disbelief. Zhao Zhao, save me, save your head, go die already. Xiao Mingji suddenly pinched my puffed-out cheek. You're truly a delight to behold when you're angry. Imperial consort. I pushed his hand away. There's something I must tell you. You might be about to die. In my previous life, as Xiao Mingji lay dying, the Prince of Wu ascended the throne and personally listed his 10 major crimes, firmly cementing his reputation as a tyrant in the annals of history. But after I was reborn, I discovered that under Xiao Mingji's rule, governance was strict yet just, his methods decisive, and he loved his people as if they were his own children. His only flaw was his ruthlessly cold attitude toward the concubines in the harem. But given the Empress Dowager's attitude, how could he dare to favor any of them? Su Jiaoyi and Song Jiu, who were carried away last time, are both being well cared for in the palace and haven't been harmed. So I hope Xiao Mingji can live. Xiao Mingji's expression didn't change at all. Thinking he didn't believe me, I added, just now, the Prince of Wu said your days are numbered. Combined with the Empress Dowager's behavior, it seems she and her son are planning to poison you. If I put it this way, Xiao Mingji should believe me, right? I can't exactly say I'm a reincarnated person who's seen the future. Can I? Xiao Mingji nodded. I believe you. I was a bit skeptical. He believed me that easily. Isn't he supposed to be naturally suspicious? Can someone with a mind like that even survive? Maybe I should just pack up and run away with the baby. Xiao Mingji suddenly clenched his jaw. I don't trust just anyone. I only trust you. Xiao Mingji told me he had been on guard for a long time. He had always been wary of his concubines. And recently, because of me, he had even started guarding against the Empress Dowager as well. Only after he repeatedly assured me he would certainly not die prematurely did I feel at ease staying in the palace to nurture my pregnancy. During this time, the Prince of Wu's mansion was very quiet. And the Chancellor's mansion was also very quiet. Until the day I was about to give birth, a palace attendant suddenly came to report. Your Highness, it's terrible. Chancellor Gu has plotted a rebellion. The ministers are petitioning the emperor to first take the head of noble consort Zhao as a sacrificial offering. 7. Hearing the sounds of close combat outside, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my abdomen. My water had broken. Where is the emperor? The palace attendant was terrified out of her wits. The emperor is in the front hall attending to state affairs. He said the chancellor's residence is the chancellor's residence. And your highness is your highness. The chancellor's residence has never treated your highness as their own daughter. So now your highness has no connection to them. You're about to give birth. I'll go call for help. Just as I watched the palace attendant run into the courtyard, a sharp arrow pierced the air and struck him in the back. The young palace maids in the room screamed in terror. I mustered all my strength and shouted, "Don't call for help. Go to the inner chamber and must deliver the child first." Fortunately, I was a natural at childbirth, and the delivery went smoothly. It was a boy. The door suddenly burst open. Gu Wanning stood there, holding an infant in her arms, and looked at me with a cold smile. Sister, you never saw this coming, did you? Father has staged a rebellion and rescued both me and the Prince of Wu. The Prince of Wu has already gone to see the Empress Dowager. Tell me, if I were to swap this deformed monstrosity in my arms for your child, do you think the Emperor would be able to tell the difference? All the palace maids attending me were killed by Gu Wanning. Gu Wanning carried my son into a side room, and a deformed, hairy infant was placed beside me. Gu Wanning's eyes burned with jealousy. Why was you able to bear a healthy, chubby son for the Prince of Wu in your past life? Why? After taking countless elixirs over the past year, did I end up giving birth to a monster that's neither human nor ghost? That's right. This monstrous infant is the Prince of Wu's and my child. But now, he's yours. The fact that you and the Emperor bore this monstrosity is an ill omen. You ought to abdicate. The prince and I will raise your child well, and from now on, he will only call me Mother He. I looked at the hairy infant beside me, whose breath was faint, and sighed. The Prince of Wu was frail by nature. Unless he found a woman with a naturally fertile womb, he could not father a healthy child. Not to mention that Gu Wanning, desperate for a child, had consumed too many secret potions, harming the fetus in her womb. Xiao Mingji arrived sooner than I had expected. I was gagged by Gu Wanning and tied to the bed, while the deformed monster beside me wailed loudly. Upon seeing Xiao Mingji, Gu Wanning sneered. Look at this, the woman you favor so much has actually borne you a monstrosity. This is heaven's punishment for you. I was so frantic I couldn't move, terrified that Xiao Mingji might, in a fit of rage, throw the child to its death and then kill me with a single sword stroke. All I could do was scream desperately in my mind. This isn't our son. Our child is in the side chamber. This is the monstrosity Gu Wanning bore with the Prince of Wu. Xiao Mingji glanced at the deformed infant, then sighed and shook his head. Zhao Zhao, you have disappointed me greatly. Gu Wanning's face lit up with joy. Your Majesty, my father's troops are now at the gates of the imperial city. You cannot touch me. If you kill this whore right here in front of me, I will beg my father to spare your life. After all, your looks are quite exceptional. I've longed for you for 2 lifetimes. I must at least get a taste. Before Gu Wanning could finish her sentence, Xiao Mingji had already thrust his sword through her throat. Xiao Mingji's guards slaughtered every last one of the men Gu Wanning had brought with her. Zhao Zhao, you have truly disappointed me. Why is it a son? I had hoped for a daughter first. The ragged cloth gagging my mouth was removed, and the first thing I did was look at my son. How do you know this monstrosity isn't our child? Xiao Mingji wore a smug expression. Because a child of you and me could never be so ugly. Gazing at Gu Waning's corpse on the ground, I asked. With Chancellor Gu plotting rebellion and you having killed Gu Waning, we no longer have a single hostage. Xiao Mingji smiled calmly. Empress, did you think I'd been idle and done nothing while you were carrying your child? I had long since detected Minister Gu's disloyal intentions. Which is why I specifically summoned his daughter to the palace. Little did I know that you and he were not of the same mind. Now, that scoundrel of a father of yours has already been arrested by my men. For some reason. I couldn't shake the feeling that Xiao Mingji knew far too much. Just then, a secret guard reported that the Empress Dowager had already led Prince Wu to the main hall for his coronation. 8. After taking a sip of ginseng soup, my strength returned. By the time Xiao Mingji and I rushed to the main hall, the Prince of Wu had already donned the imperial robe. Upon seeing Xiao Mingji and me, the Empress Dowager scolded furiously. Heaven has already meted out its punishment. You two gave birth to a monstrosity. How dare you claim to be the sovereign and empress? My Chinner is the one destined by heaven. I had a palace attendant carry my son out and present him to the court officials. This is the crown prince I have born. As for the one who gave birth to that monstrosity, it is someone else. King Wu. Do you dare to perform a blood test with that child to prove your paternity? King Wu turned pale with fear. The fact that I had appeared here safely meant that Gu Waning was already dead. How dare you? I am now the emperor. Who dares to draw my blood? Even dressed in the imperial robe. King Wu doesn't look like a crown prince. He doesn't have a fraction of the charisma my child's father possesses. Xiao Mingji curled the corners of his mouth and addressed the Empress Dowager and the King of Wu. Mother, I have never understood why, though we are both your sons. You treat me far worse than you treat the King of Wu. You had people poison my food just to ensure the King of Wu ascends the throne. What on earth is this all for? The Empress Dowager forced herself to remain calm. Because you're unworthy. You're a tyrant. My Chinner is merely a bit frail, yet he doesn't win your father's favor even though he's clearly superior to you in every way. If you still have any sense of filial piety, you'll cede the throne to Chinner. Otherwise, even in the afterlife, I'll still call you unfilial. This Empress Dowager's favoritism knows no bounds. Just because her youngest son is frail, she'll go to any lengths to favor him. Xiao Mingji, I support you tearing that trashy mother to shreds. Xiao Mingji didn't seem hurt by the Empress Dowager's words. He continued. Ever since you tried to abort Zhao Zhao's child last time, I realized you don't actually favor the Prince of Wu more. You hate me. Hate my bloodline, and hate the late emperor. I tracked down a few elderly servants you tried to silence but who miraculously survived. And only then did I learn that the Prince of Wu isn't the emperor's son at all, your bastard child with someone else. As several elderly palace servants were brought before them, the Empress Dowager collapsed to the ground, her face twisted with resentment. Why? You're just like your father. You should have died quietly. Why must you insist on living? Xiao Mingji gave a cold laugh and held me and our son close. Because I have a family now. The Empress Dowager and the Prince of Wu were imprisoned. The Prince of Wu was executed by being torn apart by 5 horses. And upon hearing the news, the Empress Dowager died of a broken heart. When I became pregnant for the second time, Xiao Mingji dismissed the entire harem. Since only the Empress can bear children, those ministers who pressured me to share my favor with others dare not say much. Empress. This time you must bear a princess for me. I smiled. Bearing a princess is easy, but if she craves skewered meat from outside the palace, her father must buy it for her personally. Xiao Mingji obediently rose to his feet. Before he had gone far, I silently recited in my heart, the skewers should have plenty of chili peppers. Also, the jewelry on my head is getting old. I heard that the Multitude Pavilion has some new gold hairpins. It would be even better if he could bring those back too. And the peach blossom drink from the Drunken Fragrance Pavilion, I'd like to try that after I give birth. Xiao Mingji called out to me from the courtyard. Got it. I've noted it all. I'm not stupid. You know, I'd long sensed that Xiao Minji could hear my thoughts otherwise. How could he guess exactly what I was thinking every single time? But I chose not to call him out on it. After all, having a little mind reading between husband and wife adds so much more joy to life. Later, blessed with a fertile womb, I bore Xiao Minji 4 sons and 3 daughters. Xiao Minji governed with diligence and dedication, leading the nation to prosperity and strength. When the crown prince came of age and took the throne, Xiao Minji and I traveled together throughout the realm. Later, people often observed that even when I said nothing, Xiao Minji would always thoughtfully come to my side to attend to my needs. Everyone praised us, saying, "Just look at how considerate the former emperor is toward the Empress Dowager." The story ends here. Thank you all for reading. See you in the next installment.